Hi, this is Mr. James, and this is From an Educator. Today we talk about remote limits, or more precisely, the limitations that remote learning present. Let's get right to it. Welcome back, everybody, to From an Educator. I'm Mr. James, an educator, and welcome to our show number 54. Surprisingly, today it is snowing out. It's snowing out, and it's currently mid-April, and it's April 16th. We're about to get on our April vacation at school, and this was our last day before that vacation, and it's snowing. Rain, snow. They said the next 2 days, it dropped 20 or 30 degrees, and yeah, a little bit of winter again. So, how's it going for you? This is what Maine is like right now. Of course, there's a lot of civil unrest around the country. I'm not going to comment on a lot of those different things, but I just feel for a lot of people going through a lot of stuff right now. We have all these shootings going on around the nation. We have still fight about racism and rights. And of course, all of this stuff surrounding the vaccine and who's getting vaccinated and the COVID 19. So I guess we'll get right to it. Updates, and I changed this screen, this certain slide from We Are the Educators to reflect Maine updates. So that's updates that I am going through in the state and what's kind of going on. So as far as COVID-19, which is still kind of a mainstay with this podcast, it is 500. Just today alone, we have 572 cases. So this was, the last time we talked, it was an average of like 300, around 300. And not too long ago, it was teetering around 100. And it just, the past few weeks, has shot right up. It says the average is 422 a day. So it's been pretty bad around here. It's been a remote week for us at school. This past whole week, we've had to go remote. We found out about that Sunday at around 7 or 8 o'clock at night. So it was like a scramble to rearrange classes and curriculum, activities based upon what we're going to be doing. A lot of my stuff has been in person, stuff that I've really been able to get the students, as a music teacher, playing instruments that I can't really give to them to bring home. And the digital version is just not the same. And I've spent all week trying to convince students that it's important that they can use the digital version of like a piano or keyboard. But yeah, I don't know. Some of them I think are contacting me or Zooming with me over a phone or a tablet or something that they just basically can't connect those dots on that certain thing. So those instruments should be on a computer, and they have computers they've been given, but I think when they Zoom, occasionally they choose something different because the amount of movement they do, not too easy to do on a laptop, I don't believe. So updates here as well. The younger people are getting sick. So we hear a lot more for younger people who are getting sick in the nation. And especially in Maine, it just seems, a lot of that's happening. We're hearing about those that are, students. We're getting calls every single day for students in high school and middle school that are testing positive. And as a result, in this area, schools are just going completely remote. It's putting a lot of people out of commission, especially a lot of people having to be quarantined. As far as the vaccine, I guess 31% of the state is fully vaccinated. I can count myself as of Wednesday this last week as being fully vaccinated. Wednesday just 2 days ago, so it's Friday. But it's still going to be 2 weeks, and I guess until it takes full effect. But it's still not enough. I think it's still, the amount of people vaccinated and the push to open everything up again, it's really hurting us. And hopefully, these cases are going to go down, but we do have these new strains going through, which is going to be pretty rough. If we find out that these vaccines don't work against these strains, and I know there's a lot in the news, figuring out if we're going to need another booster shot or not, but it's just one of those things that it's a giant hindrance to a lot of things just opening up and people returning to that word I don't like to use, which is why I'm putting my fingers up. For those that can't see, I'm putting my fingers up in quotes. Normal. What is normal? I don't think there is a normal, and I don't think we're going to return to anything that was before. So I want to do a little section today on April vacation plans. That's one big thing. Some states and schools have a spring break, they call it, and they usually do it in March. In Maine, we have one in April. We do an April vacation. We call it spring break, spring vacation, whatever. Notice, for those watching, I have a picture of trees blooming. And I noticed outside where I am, there are some trees that have some buds just starting. And I'm pretty sure they're not happy about being snowed on today. So being in the 30s is not great for vegetation. Hope no one planted anything yet. So vacation plans. Personally, I have a few things I want to do. One thing, definitely top of my list, limit exposure to people. But I mean, that's my plan every single day. But prepare for potential gigs and more content for channels. So one of the things that I'm, looking forward to at least, is gigs, playing music again, playing some of my instruments that I've been playing, and some of the bands that I've played with in the past, working our gigs back together, meeting with musicians, playing in the same room. I mean, I don't mind having a mask on. In fact, I'm not against always wearing a mask. I want to keep a mask on. I can sing through a mask easily. And for the most part, I'm not really singing. I'm playing instruments like you might see behind you if you're looking at my tiny little slide. I've got a few contacts so far, but everything starts at mid to late July and goes from there. And I'm just getting ready for whatever I have to play and figuring out new pieces to learn. But there is that idea that things might be put down for gigs and then they might go away. And so I'm still going to practice. I've been practicing the entire being remote, anything I've been playing for, a year straight, practicing for anything potentially. But now I'm ramping up more, figuring out how my electronics can work. Because I had a couple different shows that I played before where I had to play multiple racks of keyboards and multiple guitars and changing effects and trying to do so many things at the same time. Another big thing is I want to make more content for certain channels. This is one channel that I run, but I have a couple other channels, and I'm looking to get better hardware, better cameras. I want a better sound system that I can work with the cameras. I got a pretty decent sound system right now. I mean, I got a mic here, but software-wise and computer-wise, I need to upgrade some of that, and the computer hardware is going to be quite an expense, but needs to happen, right? Needs to happen. The other thing is I'm going to try some new recipes out. I've been trying that for the past few weeks, and I'm going to keep doing that. This week, I'm going to try to figure out some other additional fruits, vegetables I can put into my diet. And I'm looking at making my own yogurt as well. One of my things, every morning I have yogurt. This is, of course, a non-dairy yogurt. I'm plant-based 100%. I've been for over 2 years now. But plant-based yogurt, I have that every morning. I have my own granola I make, and I add berries to that. So I've had that every single morning. I love that. I love having the probiotics in that, the fiber I get, the fats, the quality fats I get with the granola I make. And I want to be making everything. I kind of want to be self-sustaining. I wouldn't mind growing all the vegetables and fruits that I eat, but not going to be so easy, especially if we have weather like this. I mean, what's going on? And books. I think I'm going to be starting another book this week. So I'm going to try to do more reading whenever I can. But we'll see what I can fit in. I mean, it's 1 week. At least I can make some decent plans. And that's the most important thing. I think time off is just a chance to regroup, figure out what direction you want to head in, and go there. At least when you start back at school, it's going to be something that you can start fresh again. And we're hoping we're going to go back, but there's a chance that we might still be remote. So today's show is called Remote Limits. And if you are seeing this, you see a phone on the corner with Zoom on it. Every teacher knows Zoom. Well, at least I believe teachers in Maine and maybe New England, maybe even throughout the country, know Zoom really well. Zoom is our platform for connecting to students, where we can see synchronously, and it's also, has its own limitations, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. But it's not just about the limitations of, that software. It's the limitations of everything that you have to do remote and what students are missing. And we talked about this before, Mr. Ritchie and I, in We Are the Educators, about when we're remote, how we can't be the same sort of teacher that we are in person. And it has nothing to do with classroom management or the fact that we have so much space to work with, more the fact that there are certain things that we can do, not material wise, but also using body language and just being present. I want to say awe-inspiring teaching that you can do when you're being present with a person in the same room, because we are role models to young students. We are role models. Anyone younger than us that sees that we have good ideas and maybe have something that they can learn from, they see us as role models. And it's hard to be a role model on the screen when you're being compared to everything else they see on the screen, which are highly produced TV shows, movies, even those amazing YouTubers that are getting a ton of subscribers and likes, and they have all this great software and stuff that I'd like to learn about and hopefully have a budget to afford. But we're being compared to that, and it's hard to. That's just not an even playing field. So here's a couple of things I want to talk about with remote limits. First, video is so bandwidth heavy. Being at home this week, I've had issues with Zoom, mentioning that I had slow connection speed. Everything seems to run normally, and then I keep being told by students, "You're frozen, you're frozen, you're frozen," and then they would disconnect and reconnect and disconnect and reconnect. And the thing is, I've spent so much time making pre-recorded videos and trying to make them look as great as possible that I want to tell students that, hey, I perform best from these pre-recorded videos where I've had a chance to rehearse what I'm going to say, and I think about camera angles, and I'm not acting on the fly. Having a webcam and set up your audio, and you're kind of stuck in this box And I can move my webcam a little bit, but I mean, the field of vision, I mean, look at this. Right now, I'm using a webcam. You get the top of my head and you get part of my tie. That's it. But as much as I tell students that, I can put everything up on YouTube and send them to the link. But once the Zoom gets off, or once pretty much it's a Zoom, or they see me, before this week, if they've seen me in class mentioning, hey, check out these videos here. This is part of your classroom that you have to be part of, Google Classroom or Seesaw. Go watch them. And then I don't know. I can check to see some of the numbers on YouTube, but that was pretty much the best reason for putting a lot of my videos onto that rather than sharing on a drive, is because I can see the traffic. And if something wasn't liked, then I can at least go, well, I guess I won't do that again, or maybe I should change that video. So the other thing I mentioned earlier, camera limitations. I definitely need a wider field. Like I mentioned, I'm in a tiny little rectangle right here. I need to switch some applications around and use some different software. The software is going to be dependent on the hardware I have, and the computer I'm using right now is over 10 years old. It is slow. It can't run some of the software that I feel is sort of the industry standard, because I've tried and I've had problems. So I'm going to have to do an upgrade, and I'm ready for that. I just have to logically research this. Other thing is, I can ask for student engagement during this time online, but I can't replace the TV on at their home. And I mention that because during this week, a lot of students were on, the Zoom. They did have their camera on. A lot of them chose not to have the camera on, and it wasn't worth fighting for 10 minutes during a half an hour class to convince them to turn it on. Occasionally I would get a click of a microphone, and they say, yeah, I'm here. But I knew they were doing something else. And it probably had to do with TV. Some of the ages I'm teaching don't have their own computers, so they're using school-issued laptops or tablets. And so if I'm on the screen, that's what that computer is basically used. So they had to be doing something else, and it could be video games, but it probably had to do with a TV. So having them watching TV, while trying to engage with me they're not engaging with me, basically. And as I mentioned earlier, it's hard to replace that TV that has well-produced shows and things are funny, and everything's been written down, rehearsed, executed perfectly, much like I try to do in the videos I make, because of course I can edit things out. I think students are bored with unedited things. They want everything to be perfect, because maybe in this internet age, you can look up everything you want to know. If you have a question, you just talk to something or type in to some computer somewhere, could be on your wrist, could be on a cell phone, and there you go. You get an answer, and you don't have to beat around the bush and ask someone questions to get deeper and deeper into that one thing that you want to know, because they don't want to come right out and tell you. You can just look it up yourself, which also kind of makes information cheaper. And cheaper not by expense wise, but it's just not quality anymore. It's not awe-inspiring. You don't go through the crucibles, the work, the hard work that it takes to get to that information. If it's so readily available, you're not working for it. And if you don't build that work ethic, especially in school, especially in grade school, it's going to be really hard to carry that, to get that as an adult. And it's unfortunate. I'm trying to kind of instill that in students, that it's good for you to kind of get used to doing this and build that schedule, for your day, especially if you're at home, that you do your work, that you schedule some time to play, some time to practice something, some time to exercise, because I have a whole exercise series I've done, using music for exercises and exploring different exercises. But I think they just have to want it. And I say that, and I don't really believe that myself, because I think students don't have to want it. I think you have to give students an identity, but you have to make that identity look really good. And I think that's a challenge for any teacher and parent. I mean, you have to make something look good and appealing to students, to children. And it's not easy. So the last thing I mentioned here is the passivity of watching a screen is easy. So it's easy to watch something and to not engage with it. So why not attempt to actively watch and listen to a video, like the exercise videos I mentioned that I did, which means you participate in what the video is doing. I tell you to lift your arm, you lift your arm. I show you how I'm moving my arm and my body, and you move along with me. I might count it. I might keep a beat. I might have a certain rhythm. You keep up with me. Watching something and just, okay, I'm being engaged. My brain is engaged. My body is not. And if something changes, I totally forget about what I watched. I'm just completely passive. It's going right through me. I don't care. I'm not learning from it. That's not a way to be. At least that's not a way to be all the time. That's going to be like your relaxing time. When you need to pay attention, you need to turn that active switch on. Be like, I need to actively look at this. I need to actively listen. I've been learning some guitar solos, and not easy, and slowing them down and actively like listening how the person's actually playing. And it's hard work, but it's one of these things that in doing that, other things in my life seem a little bit easier, and it's helping me with other things. And that shouldn't be a surprise, because if you work towards something, work hard at one thing, other things, that's a problem. Other problems in your life become like, oh, I can solve that now. It's not as hard as this thing I've been looking at. Huh. Wow. So things translate like that. And the limitations in being remote, I can't be this physical entity for students to see. So they can't see me in action. The way I move, which is very calculated, the way I talk, the way, my inflections in my body language while I'm moving, I have a degree in theater, and to be in front of students is theater for me. And one of the big things I go through, not just for my daily activities, I write them out, but I go through in my head, how am I going to deliver this activity? Am I going to walk over to my desk and pick something up and show this, and then ask a question and let them ponder it a bit, and then turn and then do everything is choreographed. And I do that in my head prior to, getting everything ready. I have to go through that. Is this going to work? And if it doesn't work in my head, it's not going to go up. Even if it's something that I said, well, this is going to be a great activity, if I can't execute it in a way that I think reaches the most students and has the most impact, I'm not going to use it. It has to be the show. And I call it the show, not for me performing per se, but it has to be something students can engage in, and it's kind of like all encompassing. So when they come to my class, they're coming for a performance that they get to participate in. And I want them to think of it that way, instead of I'm coming to learn, passively learn about something like a math class, or, where students said, in general, and I love math, but in general, students are always like, I don't like math. I don't like this. Well, a lot of math and music, sorry. So I think that's important to know, that we've had limitations this week, and a lot of teachers are going through limitations, all over the nation, teaching remotely. And I know they made a lot of things work, but I think it's not just teachers doing that. I think the students have to make it work. And on their end, they have to kind of push what's uncomfortable for them and push to motivate themselves. And it really is pushing to motivate yourself. I mean, even as adults, you want the easy thing, but you have to work towards something that's easy by doing hard work. And I feel you should add a little bit of this, and we're going to do this at a later show, talk about this, where you should add a little bit of uncomfortableness, discomfort during your day. During something that might be happy, you need to add a little bit of discomfort. Not, it's weird as I say it right now, but it's actually to make you stronger and more resilient. I mean, this happens, if you're exercising too, and you have like a home regimen and stuff like that, you need to add a little bit of discomfort. You need to add new exercise. You need to change things up all the time, not just to keep you mentally engaged, but also to keep physically, your body is going to adapt, and you want to constantly make it adapt to different things. You want to be good at adapting, not be adapted to one thing. You want to be good at always adapting. So you need to be a river, I guess. Change. So I did have a rant today, and I wanted to do this part of rants where I mention what the rant is on the screen. So on the screen it says 60-second rant. We need an audience. And no, that is not me ranting about needing an audience for this podcast. I know I've done that in the past. I've done that with Mr. Ritchie. We talked about, we need some subs, we need likes, we need this and that. This is great. If you want to support us, that's great. If my talking and what I ponder is helping you, I'm hoping it does. If you just maybe like the sound of my voice, to watch, what you see of this, that's great. But I don't want to be begging for subscribers and for likes. I think that's something that, originally that was one of the tiny little things that, we possibly could get a lot of subscribers and likes and, get monetized by YouTube. But it became more like, this is something that if someone's going to discover this someday, maybe it can help them. Or if someone's currently listening to it, great. Maybe this is helping somebody somewhere. So I think that's one of the big things. You can't go into doing anything like this, podcasting, YouTubing, I guess, influencing, they want to call it, with ideas of making money. I think those that do that have a certain way they look, and they have a certain sort of content. And I think a lot of people can tell when someone's making content that is for viewers and stuff. I especially see that a lot on Instagram. Some reason on Instagram, I think I'm looking for one thing, which is usually ideas on nutrition, exercise, ways to make myself better. And it turns out being someone either showing off their body or, and even then it's someone showing off a body and then they're trying to sell something else. And it's more of a marketing scheme, and it really is a marketing scheme to get more likes and clicks. And yeah, this is great. But I mean, behind that, is it a person that really wants to be that way? I mean, it's kind of like an image being sold. You become a caricature of yourself. But let's get to our rant today. We need an audience, not about subscribers. It's about an audience of music lovers. So I'm a music teacher, and everyone talks to me about their son, daughter playing music, and they think about them playing music and becoming another rock star, whoever's popular at the time, but also them having a career as a musician. Let me tell you something. there's really not a career in music right now. I play all of the state musicals. I play many different bands, weddings, play all these different instruments. I adapt to any style that I need to learn. I've done this for over 20 years, and yet I've figured out this is not something I can do and make enough money to live off of. That's why I teach. That's why I do all these other things. And I need an audience. We all need an audience. We need people who love music, who appreciate music, who appreciate musicians, or otherwise musicians are playing for themselves, which means they're practicing. And that's the truth, is that we need an audience. We need students to appreciate music. We need adults to appreciate music, to understand music. So when they see someone playing it and they know the difficulty and the hardship that person went through, they can appreciate what that person is doing. Is it the same thing afforded to those that are great at sports? I mean, think about it. Thank you. That was from an educator. Show number 54. I told you these shows are going to be very brief now when it's a one-person show. I'm hoping to have, though, a guest next week. We'll see if that email gets responded to. As always, if you like the content, you can like it, you can subscribe. But here's the thing. I want to keep this going for even the one person that gets something from this. I also like talking about being a teacher, and I want to continue to get better at teaching. I want to get better at adapting, because I don't know what it's going to look like in the future. I know currently the state is under siege with COVID-19, and the nation is under siege with these mass shootings, and just hate, I think, everywhere, because anytime something happens, there are groups of protesters and things going on, and then there's more things started, and it's a mess. I hear about it, and I wonder how it's affecting students, because that's basically my priority right now. Is it's not summer yet. I'm teaching. I have students that I care what they see. I care about their view of the world, and I don't want it to be something that's negative when there's so much positive out there and there's so many things to do. Basically, I'm motivated and disciplined because I see things that I need to do, and I never get enough things done in the day. And one of the things I'm trying to do is to get better at getting things done. This podcast, I know it might seem like I'm struggling sometimes for words. I'm trying to piece together sentences to make everything coherent, everything flow. Nothing is written down. This is just push record. And after a few failed starts, I finally get something going. And then on the editing floor will be barely anything, because, I want you to see a real person, a real teacher talking, not somebody who's pretending to be someone else. I'm not a character. I become characters that students see, and they see me transform into the character, so they know it's still me. I think that's a safe way to see a teacher, rather than somebody who you never see as the real person, and then someday you do, and then it makes you upset because you're like, that wasn't the same person that taught me. And that's basically my grade school and high school years. Always seeing the fake person and not seeing the real person. And then when you finally see the real person, you have that kind of respect get lowered, because they're not the amazing super hero that you thought they were. But I think every student, I say student, but I think every person goes through that when they're growing up. So, facts of life. Well, take care, everybody. Have a good night, have a good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are, and I will see you later.